Welcome to this free lesson that's part of a larger course you can find on digitalcreatorschool.com. Let's start learning a little bit about the history of the principles of animation, where they originated from, because they didn't always exist, but they're not as old as you might expect.
Principles of animation!
It's always important to learn the history of an art form, not just for appreciation of its own merit, but to use the knowledge of all the people that went before you towards your own efforts creating in that art medium. And in our case, it's animation. So the animation principles as we know them today were actually created in the 1930s and onwards by a group of 9 animators at Disney Animation Studios. And they were affectionately referred to as the 9 Old Men. 2 of them published a book in the 1980s called The Illusion of Life, and it would be a really good extracurricular reading for you if you're interested in diving deeper into the history of animation, especially Disney animation, where these principles originated from. They originated from these guys who were testing animation in short films, and they were called the Silly Symphonies. And it's a similar tactic that Pixar has used recently when they actually had a studio in Vancouver, Canada, dedicated to creating short films to help push the medium of animation. And that's kind of an example of history repeating itself and learning from history, and where Pixar took a page out of the book of Disney animation to focus on short films so they could do shorter project cycles and learn and apply all the things they learned from a short film into their feature films. And so that's what Disney was doing, and where they started to realize that there were certain principles that could be applied to all their animation. And that's where they started to codify these principles and what we're going to learn in this course. But let's go back and stay in the 1930s and 40s for a moment. That is considered the golden age of animation. Back then, animation was kind of considered like a carnival or a magic trick. And one really good historic example is Gertie the dinosaur. In 1914, Winsor McCay had this kind of vaudevillian act where he would stand on stage in front of a big screen and kind of command this animated dinosaur around on screen. And no one had seen anything like it before. Felix the Cat is another good example from this time period that the public saw regularly, but that character kind of lost steam over time. And the general public and production never thought that animation could make the leap from kind of this magic trick carnival show into feature films, and making the leap from something very short into something long like a feature film and compete with what at the time were called talkies, which are movies that had sound. So it was never really considered at that time that things that they saw as basically like a little trick could compete with the big, productions of something like a live action movie. I wanted to just quickly interrupt the video to remind you to subscribe to the channel. If you like videos like this, let me know. Also hit the bell notification icon so you get notified when new videos come out like this. And give a thumbs up and a comment if you want to see more like it, or to suggest a video that you'd like to see. Thanks for watching. In this golden age of animation, there were other studios in the game too. It wasn't just Disney working on animation. You had Warner Brothers, UPA, Fleischer Studios, and 20th Century Fox Terrytoons. But one of my favorite interpretations of Superman came from Fleischer Studios. So your assignment for this lesson is going to be to watch a few cartoons to see the progression of animation over time. Start with one of the Silly Symphonies called The Skeleton Dance from 1929, and then look up the Fleischer Studios Superman interpretation in 1941 called The Mad Scientist. I'll put links to those 2 animated short films in the PDF that comes along with the course, but links change, and so you might have to search for them by name as well on YouTube. But I want you to notice the difference in quality just over a decade from 1929 to 1941, how far the medium of animation came. And that is in part due to these principles that you're going to learn about, because over that time period, that's when the 9 old men from Disney were starting to codify these 12 principles and apply them into their animation. But keep in mind, there's so much more to learn about animation than just these 12 principles we're going to learn in this course. But it's where you kind of have to necessarily start to begin your journey as an animator. But one important other thing to notice is as we go through the course and learn these principles, we're also going to learn different mediums so that you can really take to heart that these principles don't rely on any one medium of animation. So for example, you could animate squash and stretch with a post-it note like we did with the line. You could animate it with a stop motion, clay. You could do it in 3D animation. It doesn't really matter. What we're going to learn is going to be able to apply to every medium of animation. That's why it's so important to learn this early in your animation journey so that you can take this toolkit and begin to apply it to all these different kind of interests and avenues that animation can take you down. But keep in mind, there's so much more to learn than just these 12, but it's the perfect place to start. And the other thing that's really fun to do is to see these animation principles applied out in the wild. You know, you'll be watching an animation or a movie or something, and you can start to see these things applied in the real world. Now that you'll know how to identify them, you can begin to call them out and see how they're applied in different situations, which is really cool. And it will help further your education, which is why the assignment is to do a little homework. And it's some of the best homework is why I like animation, is because you get to watch fun stuff. So in this lesson, we learned the backstory of animation, where it came from, who started codifying these principles. You have an assignment to follow. So, nothing pen to paper to do, but just to begin to train your eye to see the differences. And even if you can't articulate what they are yet, you'll be able to begin to articulate that as you learn the principles throughout the course. So now that we have an appreciation of the backstory of where animation has come from, let's begin to learn a little bit about the science behind why our eye can be tricked into believing that a bunch of still images back to back actually look like motion. Thanks for watching this free lesson. If you want to see the entire course, you can become a member at digitalcreatorschool.com to get the course in its entirety, as well as all the courses available on the website, in addition to all future courses that will be published. As a monthly or annual member, you can cancel anytime. I will see you there. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification icons, as well as leave me a comment if you want to see more videos like this, or if you have a suggestion for a video you'd like to see in the future. Thanks for watching.